Hello and welcome to an Albion TV special presentation. I am your host, the Chosen One, and I am joined today by Game Director Graymo and Co-Creative Director Retroman, as well as Bogle in the background. Now today it says we're here for a roadmap Q&A. Now we're going to answer some questions. We're going to take some questions, but mostly it's going to be a conversation about the roadmap with these guys. I want to hear more about what we're in store for in 2026. So first off, guys, welcome. Graymo, Retroman, welcome to the show. Glad to have you guys. It's been a while since you've been on. I'm looking forward to this talk.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having us.
Yes, thanks for having us.
I hope we get to do it more often. Thank you guys for being on. It's a real pleasure. Now, before we get into any specifics, I think that it would be great for us to kind of start this conversation off on a really broad level. Like, we just got the roadmap for 2026. We know what we're getting all the way up until about the halfway point, until the summer, right? With dragons. Interesting dragons. But there's a lot before that. You guys, what was the idea behind the roadmap for 2026? What on a grand scheme do we have kind of planned? Because there's a lot there that is not just your typical updates. There's huge things there, like the graphical update and the release on Xbox, as well as a engine change that hasn't really been discussed much.
Well, obviously the talks for a roadmap like this start a lot earlier than just a few weeks ago. So we started really talking about what we want for the next year and then few years, kind of around the beginning of last year, where we went into more depth. And there were a couple of things there on the agenda that we knew we wanted. In particular, one of the things that has always been a dream for us is that Albion is a really cross-platform experience across all platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And that has always included the plan to eventually go to consoles as well. And so we started getting a bit more concrete there. And then, once you have kind of something like this on your agenda without having a concrete date to it yet, you start planning around that, and you start planning, how can we slot this into the development of the game? Where can we slot this in one of the next years to kind of build around it? And that's really where we started. And then from there, we kind of thought, well, if we want to have a successful console launch while making sure that our core audience gets regular content, how do we do that? And that's really how this kind of roadmap then gets born. You kind of take it step by step. You say, well, we need a better new user experience for the console players, but we need cool gameplay for the core audience to play, and we need to revise some of the old content with Faction Warfare, for example, along the way. And then really that's how you build it up piece by piece.
Yeah, I would add. And also that's like, we don't have this one thing, like Mo mentioned, the Xbox launch as an example, but actually what the things we want to do, there's a lot of pieces, and then we kind of put them together like Tetris pieces, like, oh, this would fit together with this and that. And then there's a lot of things we would like to do. And then we always have to look out for the packages that fit best together, like new user experience and console launch is a good fit, for instance. New user experience is in general very good. And then also, okay, what do we do for our core audience? What are the most attractive puzzle pieces that we want to tackle right now, like dragons maybe, and before that we had the depths and faction warfare rework, right? This was in the last year, and so we kind of have all these topics lying around, and we try to piece together a plan and see synergies, and also which capacities. We also have to be realistic at if most of our art capacities are needed for that, can we handle this on top, or do we find topics that are more UI heavy and more art heavy, and then we try to find a good combination there.
So it does seem like, as you're talking about like things coming together, there does seem to be a period there where three things do come together. And I touched on them briefly. You have your engine change, the graphic change, and the launch all around that same window. And they all do kind of like work together in some ways. Was this planned from how long have you guys been planning this Xbox launch to coincide with the, I don't want to call it Albion 2.0, but it looks like it. It looks like a very heavy graphic update. It doesn't look just like fingers or, extra lighting or even just a slight touch, like changes to the environments. It looks much more substantial.
I mean, the what we internally call the visual remaster or the graphical overhaul It will come together with consoles, though be released with the spring updates just slightly before. And those two were very much married kind of from the beginning. We knew that we wanted to have this visual update to the game when we're opening it up to a new audience. A, to be competitive, B, to also kind of stay modern with Albion for the other platforms that we're already supporting. So those two were pretty much planned together from the beginning. I do have to make a small correction here. The updated engine is not actually going to be part of the spring update. That is coming a little bit later. That we can't exactly slot in right now where, but that was maybe a slight misinterpretation of the roadmap in the last stream.
That's on me.
No,
I'll take
worry.
that one.
Don't worry about that. But because you mentioned those specifically, so the visual upgrade and the console launch, they were really always planned in tandem. So that's why they're also coming this way now.
With the dual release there, it does seem like you have been, like you said, you planned this for a very long time. With the visual release, can you go into that a little bit? Because we have seen these in the past. We've seen, like I mentioned briefly, the armor update where it went from very boxy to having a lot higher polygon count and a better definition, so you could see the armors and distinguish them better between tiers even. I know that keeping the ability to recognize things has always been very important. Being able to recognize what your opponent is doing at a moment's notice. Has that been a challenge as you increase the fidelity here without, going too much into depth of this?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, when you do something like this, a visual overhaul, there's not going to be only pros. Every time you change something in a game that people know and love, there might also be potential complaints about it. And this is definitely something we consider when we make these changes. Really, for us, it was always important that when we do these visual overhaul steps, is what we have to call them, because in this iteration, we're changing the look of the open world. The dungeons that they will look the same. The armors, the character models, they will not be touched. We hope to get to those in the future, and we will update the visuals of Albion over time. But one thing that is really important to us is that it stays true to the Albion identity, that people can always recognize this as Albion. We're not planning to go for a cel-shaded look or anything. We're not really planning on changing the game away from what it is in its core.
I appreciate that, because I know a lot of people have been worried that this visual update will make it look softer or more cartoony in some ways, and I'm like, well, I don't think they're going full cel shaded, and they're not trying to chase Fortnite. But brighter colors in the cities and just a greater color palette in general, it does seem like to be a lot more visual effects, glowing effects in general, a lot of lighting effects. We're seeing shine on armors and stuff. Can you go into a little bit of detail about what kinds of visual effects you're trying to improve on here? Because you just said you're not changing the character models yet, but it does look like a lot of these models look different. How is that? What are the changes that are making everything pop?
Well, we're making primarily changes that kind of target not the models themselves, but everything around it. So we're changing the lighting, we're changing post-processing. We're going to have targeted assets in the new biomes. So you're still going to see some trees that are familiar, but you're also going to see some new ones. There's going to be slight camera effects and much more that we want to do. As with all things, this is game development. Not everything that we want to get done will get done by the end. We started off planning big weather systems and all that. Not going to quite make all of that possible with this release, but really there's going to be a lot of things happening around the character models that will make the character models pop as well.
Okay. A lot of the things you were talking about there, like the post processing and stuff, that was a lot of stuff I expected to be coming with the new engine. But you're saying this is independent of the new engine. With all of these new updates, graphical updates, more lighting and stuff, um, are you worried that this will affect people who have lower end machines or play on mobile or something? Do they still have the ability to play with lower end machines and lower tier graphics? Can they turn them down in some way?
Well, I mean, neither Micha nor I are really technical people, so I can't give you a definitive answer here live. What I can say, though, is that obviously before we set out to do this project, we talked about what this would mean for the players of Albion, and we were told that this will not have a negative impact on them, and from much more technically capable people, I will believe that.
Well, that's how I was when I was listening to Tazik describe what the update to Unity 6 would be like, and I was like,
I was impressed.
writing
I was
down my
impressed when I heard
notes.
that.
Like he's pretty good. Like
Yeah,
I'm
he is.
impressed with this guy. Like and it's very good to get the I don't know, like a more gamer centric like explanation on this. I mean, John did a great job of explaining everything in his forum post,
Yeah.
but for a lot of us, that's very heavy lifting. There's a lot of things that I don't want to say my eyes glazed over, but my brain got smoother. And it felt like there was nothing being retained in the wrinkles there for a little while. And I was like, I know this. No, you didn't take that class. And so like there's a lot there that's very heavy. But the thing I want to get out to people is that the improvements that are coming with Unity 6 will make ZVZs easier for your machine in general. And there's a lot of small changes that'll make these, the lighting changes less impactful to your machine in general, so that your game that you have today will run better after the update. And that's what I've learned from all this.
I mean, there's a lot outside of the Unity engine upgrade that will lead to performance improvements. We can probably dive deeper into performance improvements in a little bit as well. But generally speaking, there's a lot that we're also doing on our end, our code, that we hope to make big changes. Like, I mean, just examples would be the way we load and unload VFX during these big fights. That's something that we're tackling. Again, neither Micha nor I are really technical, so a bit hard to go really deep on this. But really, we put our code team in a room and we said, listen, one of the main goals for the beginning of this year is to make sure we get better performance. And they came out of that room with long lists of improvements on both client side and server side, lists that we are now working one topic at a time. And really, the idea is, and this is has always been really the plan, is that we are now starting a long-term effort to really continuously improve the performance of Albion Online. And the real first fruits of that labor will be seen with the spring update. Okay. But it will continue after that. And the continuation after that will also include updates to new Unity versions, possible new render pipelines, etc.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm not the most technical person. I just know that updates mean better performance, and that's huge for me. I love it when I hear that it's making it easier for developers to make things, such as changing over to Unity will also make it easier for you guys to develop in a lot of areas. A lot fewer steps for the technical guys, and that should speed things up in certain spaces. But also to hear that you're not just relying on one thing to be a fix-all. You're looking at many different areas to fix and improve Albion's performance, which, like you said, this is a living game. It takes forever. Before we started, you were talking about how like this takes like different pieces need to find the right moment to land, right? You need to line everything up. And that's a lot of what game development is, not just when you have a game you have to get out at a door on a certain date, but when you have a live project, those things start adding up over time. And you know, you look at Tetris and the lines keep building up, right?
Yeah.
And you start having to go, how do we take out 2 lines this day? How do we take out 3? You're not always going to be able to get, you know, the perfect line in there. And sometimes, like we were talking about earlier, Retro Man, sometimes you put something in and it doesn't quite fit. And I'm going to bring up something we talked about earlier. We were talking about soldier armor before the show, and it is something that didn't quite fit, right? Like
Yeah.
it took down a couple of lines. There was a reason for the update to soldier armor,
Yeah.
and it was something that when it hit, it made sense. But then we get to this period of the holidays, and something is stuck around for 6 weeks, and I know that's not the intent. Like it's just the reality of game development, like we were just talking about. Sometimes things hit at weird points.
Yeah, no, exactly. If you want to stay with your Tetris analogy, we wanted to put the big block in this hole, but it got stuck somewhere else, and then then we had like, oh shoot, damn, that was not what we wanted for. And unfortunately, it hit during the vacation time, so we were a bit slower to fix it or react to it, and I'm sorry for that. But we'll tackle it with the next patch. And it will not do any healing anymore, because healing and
Wow.
sustain is always dangerous in 1v1. We had a few of this, and we have a few items that do that, but we decided for now it's much better to drop this here and go back to state that is similar to what we had before with soldier armor in terms of how it plays. And if we want to entertain this again, then we have to do a bigger effort where we might want to reevaluate how much sustain in general you can have with various solo items. It's not good if one item sticks out too much.
Right.
That's definitely something that we want to take back. And sorry for the delay. It's the block it was before the vacation. And yeah, we can make it in, and it got stuck somewhere. And then now it takes took a bit to fix it.
Hey, like, as long as it doesn't stick around as long as Grudge, I think we are all happy. And like, I think people hearing the changes right now, that it's no longer going to have heal on it, that's a big change. Like, it shows like the adaptability of the studio to look at things, try them out, and see how they work. Before release, you and I talked about the how you would have the pendulum when you were testing during alpha and betas, and you would try something way over on one side and then try something way over on the other, and you'd try to learn from that data where things land in the middle. And sometimes it doesn't land in the middle. You just have to go, okay, this isn't going to work. We're going to have to go here or here. And this is one of those times where you tried to swing it down towards the middle, a little bit of both, and healing's just too powerful. Sustain in Albion along with CC, the two biggest factors in a 1v1, and you have to be very careful adding either of those to additional skill sets.
Exactly. Yeah. Sustain is very dangerous always. The same is like mobility is the other super insane thing where we always have to be very careful. Yeah, that's why we will just revert it. And we could have tried around, like, do we do something here with less healing and so, but I think it's better to just go back to where we had it before. It was not in a bad state, right? We just wanted to make it more exciting and more add more layers also for new players and so, but I think that's a dead end, and we should just for now drop this. If we want to entertain this, then we have to reevaluate sustain on armors on a larger scale. Then we enable it more broadly. Then that is an option, but then we need a bit more time and really reevaluate on all the abilities in the game.
That's a very interesting thing there. The idea of more sustain in armors in general, because that increases your time to kill. Like that increases survivability across the board, and you really have to change so many elements of Albion if you're going to increase survivability through armors. And that's not necessarily a bad idea. I think that has a lot of like legs there. There's some really interesting things you can do, because there are areas of Albion, like I look at ZVZ specifically, that have a very, very quick time to kill. And there's a lot of elements already in place to increase survivability in large scale fights. It would be interesting to see other elements in like the mid scale and lower tier, allowing for longer, more strategic fights, is what you generally get from more sustainability. So there's a lot there. I did see some questions popping up in chat, because there's one that I really do want to get to, because we haven't talked about this at all. It's probably the thing we have the most information on, the next update, right? Like the next update is looking at faction warfare again, and the realms divided, basically second half of this. How long have you guys been planning this second half? Has this been something that's been planned since the beginning of the faction warfare update with Realms Divided, and this didn't quite get in, or is this a reaction to the way that players played faction warfare, and this is your way of adapting to improve that experience?
I mean, in reality, it's a little bit of both. Both of the major features that are included in the Realm Divided Part 2, that is coming really soon, actually, were already part of the agenda when we were planning faction warfare. Now, we knew back, I mean, Micha brought it up before, we always kind of have to build packages of things that we can realistically produce in the time that we have. And these two features didn't quite make the cut then for the first version of Faction Warfare. But then obviously when we launched Faction Warfare, we reviewed how players play and we adjusted some of the things that we had in these features based on the information that we had at the time. So we knew that we wanted to have like real new gameplay that hadn't been seen in Albion before, which we're now introducing with the banners. Kind of we were sitting there and thinking about whether we have to trade banners for fortifications. In the end, we ended up going with fortifications for faction warfare because we felt that was more exciting to a larger portion of the players that hadn't yet seen them from the Outlands. And we're very happy with the package that we came up with. But both of those things were kind of just didn't quite make the cut in the end. And right. Then we delivered them later because we believe in the features and we want to have them. We think they're cool. We want to play them ourselves. So now we're delivering them a little bit later.
I'm actually looking forward to the banners and myself. I think that's going to be a lot of fun, like a capture the flag style mechanic-ish. I'm looking forward to seeing how that works in Albion. I totally understand why you brought the fortifications first over, like the forts, the fortresses and stuff. That's familiar to Albion players, and so you can actually bring that in, get some really good feedback on that with something familiar in a new place, and that not only helps like develop that feature, but also the features that you have in existing Outlands areas, because you're getting new data about what happens when new players engage in ZVZ under new circumstances. And I think that's fantastic. We've already seen some information coming out for the Bandit events and how that changes based on player feedback. Can you go a little bit more into the stuff that exists that might be changing? Because we have some specific questions that we might have to get into on this if you guys don't answer them for me.
Well, again, neither Micha or I are really on the forefront of this development. That would be John, our other co-creative director, who's spearheading this together with the team and the cool feature owners that we have working on that. But maybe if you ask us some specific questions, we can answer them. That might be more.
I have one very specific question. People want to know, will faction mounts be adapted for the new faction warfare? Because they weren't really used beforehand, and they're not getting super used now.
Well, we did touch up the faction mounts with the Realm Divided update, and as far as I'm aware, they're not getting additional touch-ups now with the Realm Divided Part 2. But if there is a concern on a player side, then please let us know, and we'll take a look.
Maybe
that's a great area for
you can add a suggestion in the chat, and then we can look into it, and the people working on it can look and evaluate it. And we always welcome your feedback. So if you have a concrete suggestion, please put them in the chat, and then we can look at it, and maybe we find the type. Like, especially if it's a smaller change, I think there's a possibility that we might look into it.
Okay. And I think the other question there was similar along this is, are regular battle mounts going to be allowed to be used in faction warfare? Like, yeah.
No. We don't want to allow this at this point. Right now, we feel like battle mounts in general are not in the most healthy state. Let's put it like this. That's also why we want to try the Disarray thing first. Or did we call it Disarray? I'm not sure. So basically, what we want to do is in the next update to reduce the amount of battle mounts that get used in a fight. We will add a system that battle mounts in your guild have a certain cost associated with it. So every battle mount has a cost. Let's say this one, and we can then decide battle mounts that we feel are kind of oppressive or annoying to fight against have a very high cost. And if you exceed a certain amount of points threshold, the battle mounts will contribute to your guild's disarray level. So if you start bringing a lot of beetles and spam the whole battlefield with it, then all of your soldiers get weaker. And that's the intention is to have a soft system where we kind of can influence the amount of battle mounts players bring to a fight, and also we can then tweak some battle mounts where we say they are more on the supportive side, have a little lower cost, and the more aggressive have a higher cost. So we can balance around with that and tweak. And this is intended as a first step to see, and so we want to launch it and see how the ZVZ evolves after that. And if we notice, hey, that's a bit better, but we are still not really happy, or we need more features, then we will consider adding more things in the future. So we want to test this out first. And going back to the original topic, before we don't sort out all problems associated with battle mounts, we don't want to allow them in faction warfare. If we have them in a really good state, we might consider, but then the problem is the disarray wouldn't work because you don't have control what some of the people bring, right? In a guild, we assume the guild leader will tell his members, hey, don't bring that or this, and they will sort that out. But in a faction warfare fight, you can't really tell them, right? If there's 20 people joining with the beetle, you can't just kick them from your faction.
Right. Like it makes it very hard, and you can be trying to do the right thing for your team, and you're just not aware that you're bringing the 15th beetle, and you're making it 2% debuff for everybody on your team.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. We have a series of questions here popping up about dragons. Now, I know that dragons is something we have very, very little information on because it's way out there on the end of the roadmap. It's you're looking out. You're like that guy with the spyglass in the beginning of Albion, looking at the island, and you can see the dragons flying overhead. You just we don't know where they are. But there's some pretty broad questions that we might be able to answer here. Somebody is asking, can they mount the dragons? Will they be battle mounts? And that's a question there. And aside from that, do dragon mounts fly? And I think that's a two-parter we can answer at the same time, kind of.
I can talk about dragons a little bit. I can't, unfortunately, go into details. So we are currently prototyping dragons, and we wanted to announce that because we are really excited about it. We wanted to do them for so long, and finally we have them working in our engine, and looks already really promising what we have here, and we're very excited to share that. And also we want to let players know a bit, hey, because if you stay silent for too long, you don't know what are the next updates, what are they even doing to that. We want to let you know, hey, we're actually working on cool things. Look at this roadmap. These are all the things we are super busy. Don't wonder if there's any updates. There will be. The thing with the dragons is we are very early in the stage of pre-production right now, and we are prototyping, and when we said, hey, we do dragons, like the ideas for what we can do and what we want to do are like massive. We have so many cool ideas.
It's a very big idea right now. It's could be anything.
Right, and this topic, it just lends to so many cool things that you want to do, right? When you hear dragons, there's so many things that a lot of the players ask for, and then when I see in comments that most of the things, or many, not many of things, are on this list of things that we would like to explore and do. There's a lot of overlap, but the reality is, and here comes the Tetris game, we have limited resources, and we have to now make sure we find a package that is in itself really cool and exciting. And right now, I don't know exactly what things we have currently on the agenda make the cut and which ones will not. That is why I have to be really careful to not promise anything here, then say, yeah, that's cool, we have this idea and this is our concept, and then we might cut it. That would be really disappointing. Yeah. That is why it's really tricky to reply directly on even like features and scope and what things are in there. Let me see if I can find something that to give you
I have a little bit. Like, can we say there would be some PvE and you would fight the dragons? Or are you more about like reputation with the dragons? Are we looking at friendly dragons or enemy dragons?
Okay, yeah, I can give you a little bit. So, we are fighting dragons, of course.
Okay, we're
No,
fighting dragons.
we
All
want, we
right,
want,
yeah,
we want to slay dragons.
yeah.
What's going on here?
Okay.
Yeah. I can give you this as a hint. I think no matter what the packages, this will always be true. The actual fight against the dragon, slaying the dragon, will be a PvE encounter that is very challenging, and the encounter with the dragon itself, just the dragon fight, will be in a pure PvE setting. There is no PvP. But, really important, the step that leads towards this will be integrated in Albion's full loot PvP-centric system. So we want to split the actual fight, that we have a high-end, high-stakes fight that is really challenging and ups our PvE game. We want to really bring that to a new level. And we feel like this can only be achieved if it happens without the risk of other
Yeah,
players.
absolutely. You can't have
PvP
people
and
coming
all
in.
the cheese where the dragon does a really powerful attack and then someone just comes there and backstabs everyone or things like this. So we do this split, but it is not a pure PvE update. That's not the intention. If you are a pure PvE player, then you can look forward to a really exciting dragon fight. But our core audience, which is a lot of PvP players, and who that's something that our game does really well. We want to integrate the dragon into this kind of systems what Albion is really good at. So that means PvP and kind of this maybe extraction style gameplay is a bit, and all these things, guild warfare, these things that we are really good at. That is kind of where we want to tie the dragon into this gameplay, and just the actual fight, the PvE fight, then is separated. That you can, after you earned the right, you can go and fight the dragon without other players cheesing you. So I think I already said more.
You did. You said a lot more than I expected, and it's given me more questions. And I'm gonna be really brief with these, because I have to say I love the idea of a PvP style encounter or PvEVP leading to a pure PvE challenge. I think that's something that a lot of players have discussed in the past. And if you go all the way back to like beta, we saw that kind of environment where you'd have to fight into your PvE environment because they were so limited. Like Scarcity played a large role in beta for forcing people to fight each other and then get their PvE reward, which was literally the fame and experience of going to do the PvE. Now, I just have one more question. You can say I can't answer that because it's a very specific one. Now, when it comes to dragons, I've always felt that dragons are epic, that they should be huge, and by their nature, Albion doesn't show big things very well, right? So I've always thought we should take the contra approach to this boss and make the boss the level. Like, it's not like a little geometry flopping around with a tail that swings around and you can only see part of it as it moves back and forth, kind of hokey on your screen. No, the screen is the dragon. Like, you have to take down this area and get the hell out of the way before it smashes you with its half screen sized paw and blows fire across 3 screens of space. So if you're there, you better defend yourself because you ain't running away from a dragon. Like, I've wanted to see epic dragons. Will we see epic dragons?
We will see. I can't go into too much detail. I would say
okay,
we will see a dragon,
like
and I think the dragon is epic. I think it's really cool what we have right now. I'm really looking forward, and I really like what we have in engine already. But I can't go into much more detail. I think, and the big reason is, we have to nail down the package with this. We have been working a lot right now to kind of find and make, and it's a really tough part of game design. I can tell you that you have these cool ideas and you want to do this, and this, then you have to face the reality and say, okay, this probably doesn't make the cut. What the hard reality of the resources kicks in, and then you have to say, what is the best package that we can deliver? And that's why I cannot make any promises yet what the exact package is. It's just that we are working on it, and we are right now trying to figure out the best package. And we will, of course, over the next months or so, we will, of course, then have more news for you once we know a bit more.
And we know it will be epic.
It will be epic. I think
Awesome.
the dragon is really cool. I'm really happy that we finally get to do one. So many people in our team wanted a dragon for so
They really
long.
do.
And
Yeah. It's
yeah, and the players also, and for a good reason. You have to have a dragon in a fantasy MMO.
I've read the lore. The dragons are a key part of that. And you know what? That's actually a good transition to the event. So we have the Keeper event. And we read the lore the other day. Robin read the lore aloud on the air and talked about how the Keepers and the Druids were like the giants and the Druids are combined together to become the Keepers. And they are literally the keepers of the entombed dragons. They have stopped the dragons long before we got here. I think it's what is it, 1800 years ago they entombed the dragons, and so basically, just you add an extra 200 years for a ban. It's a full 2,000 years before anybody gets to find these dragons after their ban. But the dragons basically sealed away 1800 years ago by the druids and the giants working together. They create the faction known as the Keepers. We have an event coming up before the dragons involving the Keepers. I'm guessing these two are related. Now, I'm going to ask a very broad question. Are we fighting with the Keepers or against the Keepers?
I mean, it's safe to assume that it is related, I would say. I guess you have made the right connection there.
I made a good
guess. The actual content, I won't go into too much detail yet. We have a bit more announcements later, but maybe I can say a bit more about the event on a more high level to kind of catch you what we are trying to achieve here and why we are doing this. Like mentioned in the dev talk, the inspiration was always the Avalonian invasion we did back then. And what we really liked about this season and what we wanted to try to do again is that we tie an in-game event that is time limited narratively towards the launch of the next update. So it has a bit of a lead up that it feels like it's not out of nowhere, but there's like a cool thing happening in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And the players, they're kind of part of it. They were there when this happened. And this is a cool thing and something which we want to do again. We have been trying to do this for a longer time, but now finally we do it. And maybe after this, there might be even more. That's nothing right now planned, but I would say maybe we explore this a bit further. The cool thing about this is that when you play the game, we can use these events to shake up the world of Albion a little bit. We don't want, and one thing, that's the other thing, with the Avalonian invasion, there was also a thing that we didn't like, and I think many players also didn't like, is like the chaos the last day had, and there were some cool, funny moments when the cities were overrun and so, but players not being able to join clusters, and they couldn't respawn. There were so many problems with everyone concentrated, and this whole craziness we don't want to repeat. As funny as it is now to watch the videos, but we wanna.
Please don't remind me of the stream. Yeah. I've only gotten yelled at once for what I did on air, and it was that day. But I was left alone with 14,000 people streaming to 14,000 angry users that day. That was a wild experience. Honestly, when I look back at it, it's part of the story of Albion.
Now
right?
it's funny, but back then it wasn't so funny.
It was scary when it happened. It was like, oh no, what did we do? But when you look at a true invasion, right? And if you want to know, like that's what it was. And it wasn't the invasion necessarily of the like Carlian by the NPCs. It was by the players into all of our DMs all day long. Like it was a full-on assault. It became like one of those moments in Albion that is greater than the moment in game. So much more. And I think that's one of those unique things that Albion provides. We have a mistake that happens, things don't turn out the way they're supposed to, everything's a little chaotic, but it then becomes that story. It becomes that thing that leads to the lore of Albion. And honestly, if it went super smooth, would people remember it as vividly as they do now? Would it be part of the lore in the same way? Would it have literally been a destruction? Because that's what it was. It was destruction of Carlian, destruction of the portal. And that should be an angry event where the players are mad. They've lost their main city, right? And it created the emotional response, I thought, that was appropriate for the destruction of the city and leads to a better overall long time lore. Maybe not the greatest way, but you know, hey,
Yeah.
it created an event, and that's what you need. It's like, you know, I look at like when Richard Garriott died as Lord British in Ultima Online, right? Not a scripted event, not supposed to happen. The day before the game goes live, the creative director goes out there and says, "I'm making a big giant speech," and somebody steals a firewall from a guard and drops it under him and kills him, and that becomes not just the biggest moment in that game, but a moment that people from all MMOs kind of look back on and go, this is a big thing. And it's from a mistake. And oftentimes with MMOs, with live service games, with things that are the players creating the story, the things that don't turn out the best often turn out the most memorable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Try
and
to. Or Mo, you can also go.
Yeah, no. Obviously, from the Avalonian invasion, we did learn quite a bit, and there's a reason we haven't done this kind of event in a while.
Yeah.
It's that really, as memorable as it was, it didn't quite play out the way we wanted it to play out. But also, it's because we really haven't had as epic an introduction as we want to have with Dragons. That would have been worthwhile this kind of season, or this kind of event style setup. So that also points you in the direction that we plan for Dragons to be epic, and we want Dragons to be epic, and we want to introduce them with a bang, and we're quite excited about that.
Just one thing to add is, imagine Avalonian invasion without the end. The end is the end part was too crazy. We want to be a bit more tame, because that causes too much problems for players, but also in this case it makes also kind of sense. Yeah, so not the full craziness. We want to have it a bit more tame and a bit more like a event style character for something, changing up your day-to-day gameplay for a while, and then see how also it's also a bit of a test balloon for us to see again how much you like these kind of things, and then maybe we can in the future do similar things depending on how popular these kind of events are.
I know that seasonal changes, even just through the guild season and the way that people score points, has been something players have asked for a long time. Such as like the season of the rat that makes it so solos do more damage to groups or something like that, or the season of the eagle where the you can see everybody on the world map, or so you know where all the blobs are, things that kind of spice up little things about gameplay. So anything that causes more seasonal change and more interaction before updates, or more interaction in a season, I know are things the players are really looking forward to. Now, I absolutely understand why we can't have a city event, and I'm going to bring this back around to another thing we have coming up. We have the Xbox launch. Now, the Xbox launch is something that people expect to increase player numbers a little bit. In the past, we have heard people go, we're going to need new servers, we're going to need new territories, we're going to need X, Y, and Z. What kind of preparation are you guys making for the Xbox launch? What do you guys expect there with that launch?
Bit hard to go into concrete numbers. Obviously, launching an MMO on a console is not an everyday kind of thing, and there's not a lot of games out there that are doing it in the way we are doing, namely like fully cross-platform. You can just play on your PC and then decide to hop into the living room on the couch and just play on with the same friends on the same account, doing the same activities. That is, I would say, not the usual style of doing a console port, and therefore it's not exactly easily possible to quantify what players we will get. We do expect, obviously, a user search, a player search. We wouldn't be doing this if we didn't think that this was a worthwhile thing. A lot of development resources go into something like this, so you only really go into an endeavor such as launching an MMO on consoles if you don't believe in it. Or if you believe in it. We are upping our server capacities. We're not adding server locations or anything. We're just like for the launch in particular, upping server capacities, but nothing that would dramatically change the world or the feeling of gameplay for the players that already play.
Makes sense. So I do want to see with the Xbox, are we doing? You said that there's in the roadmap. You said that there was a update to the controller. We're seeing the wheel. We're seeing so a few other things. What kind of updates to the control specifically for the console are we expecting?
First, I think one of the biggest changes is we have a dedicated game menu. So basically, it's what you press the equivalent of a start button on an Xbox controller.
Hmm?
And you get a big menu, and then you can, with your shoulder buttons, cycle through it. It shows the Destiny board, world map, and these things, and you can cycle through it. It's a very different UI navigation that we built.
That's cool. Yeah.
We cannot rebuild all the UIs. There's just so many in the game, of course, but we have overhauled a lot. And we have changed a lot of the control schemes, especially on UIs. And another thing is we have new control schemes with new button layouts and also targeting. We did a lot of changes there and tried out a few. And we did a lot of play testing too with this to see what feels good and stick as good. We also want to add a legacy control scheme because there's quite a lot of changes, and a lot of the existing players that play on controller might not actually like everything we done. So we want to add a legacy control scheme. A few things will be different just because we have revamped so many things with this. And I think the biggest impact, in my opinion, is especially the menu navigation. There's a lot of changes we do. And one of the big things is like this dedicated game menu. We have a wheel menu, right, where you can select quick options to have them to have it feasible to have that many options on your controller, right? Because it's such a different input device. There's definitely a lot to look forward to. And I think we are on a pretty good track. Of course, as I can tell you as a dev, you always want more. But I think we have done a lot on, especially on the UI side. There's so many new menus that we overhauled. There's how you invite friends and how you invite people to your party and all these like little things you do on a daily basis, and how you interact with the market and so on. We have to make changes on all of these things. Inventory management also quite a thing on controller. And then of course combat. We did a lot of testing with targeting and control schemes, and we want to launch with two new control schemes. One that is more suited to be played with both analog sticks and the shoulder buttons. So you can use the right stick more for targeting and have most of your abilities on have all of your abilities on the shoulder buttons. And the others is where you have a left stick mainly, and then we have the mix of abilities on the face buttons and the shoulder buttons, which is, I think, more beginner friendly. And it also has other advantages, but we just want to give you the option to see what you as a player prefer as a play style for Albion, which is, admittedly, we have been trying this a lot and doing a test. And a game like Albion on a controller is very challenging. But like we did recently, we did another playtest where we played amongst us. We did a custom match with a 10v10, and it was pretty cool to see how well the targeting actually works now on a controller. That's really cool. And I'm looking forward to see how the players like it. And of course, like always, when we are on a test server or after this launch and we have feedback, how you think we can improve further things, please always let us know, because we will keep improving this, right? It's not like, oh, here's everything done. And then if you don't like things or you have a good reason or a good proposal, please always bring that forward. There's dedicated people who are very smart and are very dedicated and will look into this feedback and try to make the best version of Albion on console that we can do.
So a lot of this is about the UI for not only for the consoles, but the visual update as well. So we see a lot of the changes there. Now, Graymo, I know you came from UI, and that's where you were last time we did an interview. Well, actually, not the last one, but the first time we did an interview. Sorry. But like, to me, there's a lot of stuff in user design, like UX design and stuff like that, that really do improve gameplay in ways that people don't necessarily see. They don't understand until they're halfway through it. Everything from like positioning of items on the paper doll to the way that the wheel works and just the way that it responds to your interactions. Is there a design philosophy that you have with like UI changes that you're making now, moving from like I want to say a very simplistic, very minimalistic UI that we had, say, in 2017 to it's getting to be like we had glowing circles, we had visual cues, we have some physical cues as well now with the controller. Where do you take your inspiration from on these?
Well, I have to admit that I haven't been part of the UI team now for already some years. I think I left the UI team here at this point 4 years ago. So
oh my God! Well, shit, I gotta do more interviews then. Oh man,
yeah. But the UI team have done a great job at continuing where I left off with the team, and obviously before me there had already been other people there. We do try to stick as consistent as possible to the UI that we have all across the game. That's difficult because every UI, as you say, like little things matter. The hate that I've gotten for placing a button in one specific location is immeasurable.
Wild.
Yeah, it's wild. But yeah, so consistency. But then obviously when you tackle something like consoles, you really like we don't have a baseline for that. So we have to invent everything again. And our UI team, together with our developers, have done a great job at realizing that vision that we had. We're very proud of what we were going to launch with. And I think it's a real big improvement if you play with a controller on PC as well. So it's like really, this is going to be a cool change.
Now, I hate to ask this, but I have to ask this because I know with the release on Xbox, there's going to be a lot of changes. There's probably going to be some cosmetics and all. Will we get Albion-themed cosmetics for Clippy?
Who knows? One day.
Will Clippy appear in Albion?
Who knows?
All right. I had to go there. But I'm very excited for this launch on Xbox. There's a lot of things around it. Do you guys have any, like, how much can we say about it? Because I want to talk about some of the things that will be happening around it, but I don't know what we can really talk about here because we will be there for the launch of the Xbox on Albion Online. Like the AOTV team will be there, probably way more than anybody is prepared for. It's going to be wild. I invited everybody, and everybody said yes. So this is going to be fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, we've hosted you guys before. Some of you more than others. I remember Robin Hooders last time couldn't make it. No, we're always super excited when you guys make it to the office. It's fun. In fact, we're currently actually calling for people to participate in-house playtests here in Berlin for controller play or for Xbox play for the game. So if you're interested in that and you're around Berlin, maybe take a look in the forum and check that out. And for you guys, AOTV, whenever you're here, that's going to be fun.
I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm going to be there far too long. You guys will probably be sick of me by the time I leave. Or you'll be asking me to stay. One of the two. It's definitely gonna be one of the two. But I'm really looking forward to it. We do have a couple of other questions though from individuals that popped in that are not necessarily tied directly to this update. They're hidden things in there. I know about a couple of them. We've seen a little bit about them. We've seen a new map for the Crystal Arena. And we've heard that there is a new one-on-one Crystal Arena. But there's a lot of people asking about the old Crystal League. Will we ever see updates to the Crystal League? Will we see anything for high-end 5v5 gameplay that is updated? I guess would be the best way to say it.
There's a little change, or a smaller change that we do that we plan to do is that we add a might challenge that gives season points again for Crystal League.
Okay.
Of course, you also benefit from the new map, and we might look at the timer and schedule. We have that to still see if you want to make some changes there. Unfortunately, one thing I can tell you that also is it hurts me to say, but it's we really would like to do a bigger overhaul of the system. It's one of our older systems, and it's very over-engineered on the backend side, and unfortunately it's not as easy and flexible to put it just in, say, like the arena UI that you could sign up from there or something like this. Unfortunately, that would require a bit of a bigger rework, the way we build it. That is why, and we haven't changed it for a long time, and the reason is the player base, unfortunately, no matter what we did, was always really low. And so far, it's like this is Tetris analogy, right? We have all these cool things we want to see, and we have to look for the things that we think are the most impactful. And unfortunately, in this pool so far, Crystal League has been quite low, right? We always go for these topics that reach more players or fix a bigger, broader problem in the game. I really would like us to, at some point, get to overhaul Crystal League and also integrate it more into the arena UI and everything, and have like in-game built tournaments or something system-driven. But unfortunately, at the moment, the resource that would be required here, we don't see as justified. I'm really sorry for this kind of news, but we can do smaller adjustments. We try to do it on the side a bit for the people that do play it, that is a small minority, but at least we want to try to make their life better if they enjoy this content.
Well, we do see some changes already to like the more casual side, and that I've seen a lot of people interested in. We still play the Crystal Arena. We try to do some like scrims. We try to do scrims at least once a month with people using the scrim tool and trying to use what's available to just make different kinds of matches. So more options for the scrim tool and giving us more ability to really build out these things will help for sure with getting like more community content out there, more community matches. We have a community 5v5 tournament that we see regularly. We just did that last Sunday. Very successful with those guys. Shout out to all of them. But we also see people trying to do like small scale, like ZVZ stuff. And the limitations of the tool don't allow for even like 20v20s in a ZVZ style because everything is so locked behind points and the different nodes. Having more options for those scrim tools to be able to be freer with the different rule sets that we have in Arena, Crystal Arena, and 20v20, which all have different scoring sets, allowing those to be used in different maps so that players can really make new things would go a long way into those community-driven things. I'm also really interested in hearing more about how the 1v1 Crystal League came about, or Crystal Arena came about, because that's new. That's something that's we haven't seen that. The closest thing we have is just your typical duels, which are often interrupted by all sorts of things. There's a lot of scams involved in this. It's very hard to get involved in it and feel comfortable with that, right? In the 1v1. What was your motivation for this? What do you guys hope to get out of the 1v1 Crystal Arena?
Well, the 1v1 arena was brought to the table when we were discussing things, primarily because we wanted a way for players to learn PvP in a bit more of a controlled environment. You mentioned duels. Duels are not controlled at all, and as you say, very much depends on where you are, who's currently around you, and then the potential risk of being scammed is something that is pretty ever present in duels. And then our other game modes that are solo oriented, corrupted dungeons or playing in the mist, etc. Like the lead up time to a PvP engagement is typically quite long. Then the PvP engagement itself lasts rather short. There's not a lot you can really, you can learn over time, but it just takes longer. And then obviously when you bring a lot of players in with consoles and not only with consoles, but also we bring in a lot of players on a daily basis outside of consoles. We want players to engage in PvP feeling like they had a platform to train it. And the 1v1 really is really meant to be both attractive for players that are learning PvP, but also for veterans. We're building the 1v1 game mode for the arena as a ranked game mode with full, it's gonna with a full ranked support. You're gonna be able to climb ranks and then rank up or play up against other high ranked players. So that ensures that both players on the low end will get matched against other beginner players, but players who are very experienced in PvP, especially solo PvP, will be matched against other players who are already skilled in that field. So we really want this to be interesting and a PvP learning experience for both new players and veterans alike.
We're getting a lot of questions about rewards for this. Will there be new skins besides just rankings? What will these players be able to earn from this? Because it's great to say, I'm in the top 10, but people like to wear fancy gear and get coins and, loot.
Yeah. The reality is, unfortunately, we simply don't have capacity to build shiny new rewards for the 1v1 arena. I know this is going to be a bit disappointing to hear. You will, however, be able to get rank up rewards independently for the 1v1 arena as well as the 5v5 ranked crystal arena. So you can get, if you hard grind arenas, you can basically double up on the rank up rewards. Okay. There will not be any shiny new vanities, unfortunately. Sorry about that. We would love to add that, but really, if you look at our roadmap, a topic like dragons binds significant character art resources that would otherwise go into creating vanity skins as rewards for a game mode like the 1v1 arena or the arena overhaul in general. And that kind of just brings us back to what we were talking about before. It's all Tetris puzzles and like we have a limited team size and we have to allocate our capacities where we feel it has the most impact. And we have to really spread that over the year. So even in this release, in this spring update that we're going to be releasing, we've already had to divert significant resources of both technical and artistic nature to other areas and other updates, so that we do the year justice in a way. Like a lot of our coders are, instead of working on this game update, are working on performance improvements. A lot of our artists are already working towards the visual overhaul as well as dragons. So that's really how we have to take a look at our plans holistically and say, well, that's where we need these resources. And so then we build all of our updates to kind of match with that plan of resource allocation.
I do know that there are a bunch of cosmetics coming out this year. There will be more cosmetics this year. I know a lot of people, they probably heard that and they're like, wait, nobody's going to be around for cosmetics? No, there are cosmetics. Lots of them. There's new Twitch cosmetics. There's good stuff coming this year. Hold tight. Dragons. So when it comes to like the visual updates and stuff, it does take a lot of a very specific group. When you're talking about moving these guys around, and a lot of probably what you're doing now is moving people around from one update to the next and playing a lot of Jenga or Tetris and making sure that things do not fall apart, right? So with this next update, there's very specific things coming. It's very much about the Realms Divided and bringing out 2 new gameplay styles for that. Is there anything else in that update you want to talk about? Because we don't know a lot about it yet. And this is an area where we could talk about some of the more broad areas on it, or really bring the focus to those 2 pieces and talk about those 2 going forward as what to expect for players and really like tighten their expectations going into the new update.
I mean, the Realm Divided Part 2 is gonna be a smaller content drop than the spring update. I don't think there's really things bigger things that are worthwhile talking about outside of those faction warfare features. Of course, it will come with combat balance changes. It will come with bug fixes here and there. But it is overall a smaller release and more of an addition to the update that we released last November than its own standing update. Well, content update in the traditional sense.
So, like, we're just going to focus the expectations to this is an update to an existing update, bigger than a patch, but smaller than our large quarterly updates generally are, because there's so much going into the spring update, and that has a lot with the visual update and such. Do we want to talk a little bit more about the spring update and what we will see there? I don't know how much we can, because not a lot has been kind of like given out about that yet.
So I mean, the big bangers of the spring update are the ones that we've mentioned in the dev talk. That would be the visual overhaul, the preparations for console. Though console itself, Xbox will be releasing just a little bit later. The Armory for the loadouts is something that I'm super excited about. This has been kind of a dream feature of mine and other developers we have in here for many years, and it never just quite fit into the package that we made. Effectively, what we've been doing already for some time is really tracking the builds that players play in all types of content that you can imagine in Albion. And we're going to bring that to the players in an interface where they can take a look at, oh, I want to play this content. And then it will show me not the best build, but it will show me these are a couple of effective builds in this type of content that other people are playing based on certain criteria. So I can see, oh, this build is super survivable in this content, or this build has crazy damage output, or this does crazy healing in this kind of content. And then I can just take that build and I can save it to my personal loadouts, and then from there buy it from the marketplace and use it when I go out and play that content. That's something that I'm super excited about. Well, one other thing that is included in the Armory that I also think is super impactful is when you find a piece of gear or you see it in the marketplace, we're going to show you on that item in the item details what this pairs well with. So like you find a great axe and then it will show you, oh, this one is often played together with a mercenary jacket or something like that, right? That's just a great thing. Also, again, for new players and veterans alike, a lot of the things that you will see in the spring update are good for new players and veterans alike because it coincides with the console launch. So yeah, those are some things. Then the big arena changes, the 1v1 game mode. We're going to make changes. We're going to get a new 5v5 Crystal Arena map, but also make some changes to matchmaking.
Oh, really?
We'll see how much we really get in. Again, we have a long list of things that we want to do here, and it's about technical resources in the end. But we plan to make changes to matchmaking. And then disarray changes, smaller party leaf protection things. So there's a bunch of stuff in there that is interesting. However, it's also on the scale of content updates that we've had over the years. It's going to be a smaller one compared to the really big ones because of, as said, the technical resources and artistic resources going to other projects. But really, we're spreading our resources out over the year and have been doing over the previous year in a way that we feel we make the most impact for the players and will make Albion the best it can be.
You're saying, you it's not going to be as big as other ones that have been in the past and stuff, and that you got the team spread out. And I think that's something for people to understand, that the team has grown and now no longer works on one project at a time that takes 6 to 8 months to get out.
Yeah.
Because that's why they were so big, is it was one team that put all of its effort into one update, maybe 2 updates a year, usually one big one and one smaller update later in the year. And now we've changed to, 4 updates a year at times, depending on how the schedule flows. This year's going to have at least 4 updates. This is a big change. There's a lot more being done. And while each one may seem smaller, the end of year output of updates on Albion is more than it's ever been. And so, like, don't put your, like, be careful how you phrase that. It's saying, like, oh, we're doing less. No, you guys are doing way more than has
I
ever been done in Albion. And I'm so proud to get to work with you guys because
yeah.
watching this from the outside and seeing where it's come from, like, 2017. Actually, I started playing in 2014, end of 2014, beginning of 2015. So, like, so much has evolved over time, and it is a live game. Very, very live. Like, a lot of games are live service games, but a lot of live service games tend to stay stagnant. They do their thing and they run their course. Albion has really adapted and developed in parallel to its growing audience. As the audience changed from the very beginning days after release, there were updates and changes to the way that development went to not like force players to the original idea of Albion Online, but to adapt Albion Online to the evolving vision of the players and the developers as new developers come in. Because like it started with 35 people when I was here, and that included everybody from accounting to community management, support. It was a very small team for a live service MMO that was expected to go for 10 years. Now, well over 100 people continuing to grow onto like not just a new studio, but an expanding internal, like your studio itself is expanding inside your new building. It's been really awesome to watch from like the outside looking in. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing how it has evolved just in the course of the last year plus when we head out there in the spring.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, and you bring up a good thing there. Shows in that I also have to be a little bit careful of what I say here because I'm going to get in trouble internally if I say that this is a small update. Obviously, this is it's a freaking huge package, and it's a big challenge for us to do a console development for an MMO. That's a major technical challenge. UI challenge, then this whole visual overhaul, that's a huge artistic challenge for the entire art department. And then we have a big push for performance improvements that we've started, and that you will see the first fruits of the labor to become visible now with the spring update as well. It just means that the update is a little bit lighter on the gameplay side than we have had in the past, but it's still a big update, and there's still a lot in there, and we wouldn't be advertising these things on the roadmap if we weren't really proud of that.
One thing I think people got to remember too is when you have updates like this, which are foundational updates, this is building Albion for the next 5-10 years, right? It's really improving Albion so that when you guys do your next development cycle, it goes smoother and allows you to have more tools at your disposal to do more things. Like a lot of this has been about time management and tool management. We're talking about how hard it is to manage and place things throughout the year. One of the really cool things that's going to happen from the update to Unity 6 is a lot of that is going to shrink. Not a lot, not 50%, mind you, but 5% here, 10% there. Being able to get an extra 10% out of the system just because of the way that it manages the bus. There's so much there that is under the hood that will allow development to be smoother and easier, that it shouldn't be stated that there's just not a lot here for the audience. It's the building blocks for tomorrow. It is the things that allow some of the things that players have wanted to see for a very long time and haven't been able to see. It's the things that allow for the improved ZVZ experience that people have been asking for since Queen. Like, people loved Queen. They were like, this is huge. This is awesome. It's great. Improve it. Because players are never satisfied. And they shouldn't be. Like, that's what motivates us as developers to do a better job, is that interaction with the players.
We are never satisfied. I can't tell you that.
I was going to say the exact same thing. I mean, there's so much that we want to do. When we talk about these Tetris pieces, we have enough Tetris pieces to fill up the roadmaps up until 2030 and beyond, probably. It's really just a matter of making sure that we get to put packages together that synergize, that heat the beat of the players, that work out when they need to work out. And we're doing the best we can at it. And we're super happy if players appreciate what we do, because we are super excited about the changes that we make as well.
I will say I'm very excited for this. I'm very proud of what you guys have done, and not just this year, but like I said, watching this thing grow over time. It really has been watching a studio mature. We're now on to like Gen 3 of the studio in a lot of ways. When you look at the people who are in the studio, a lot of people have grown with the studio, like yourselves, into bigger roles and taking a larger bit of control in the development process, which is great to see, because you guys are people who've been here for a very long time and you know Albion. We were talking about how hard it is for any developer to know all of Albion, right? And it's like new people come in and it's very hard to even know one slice. You have to spend months playing the game to really understand the game. And I don't think us players expect everybody to know all of Albion, because there's very few players who experience all of Albion, and there's fewer of them who know those areas at a very high level. Most of them stream and are very opinionated. But there's a large base of players who do not get to experience everything. So it's the same for the developers. This is a massively huge MMO. It is not like a lot of other MMOs which have a singular design path. It's do the PvE, do the next step in PvE, get your gear, get the next piece of gear, do the next piece of PvE to get your next piece of gear so you can do the next piece of PvE so you can get your next piece of gear. And it's all the same thing. Albion is not like that. Everything is different. When you institute like a PvE VP mentality as your base game and say the players are the driving force in action, that changes the way you have to develop, because you can't just develop under a single vision anymore. You can't say we're going to do X, Y, or Z. You have to look at what the players are doing. You have to look at the way they're engaging in content and develop that around them. And I think that's one of the areas where Albion has really excelled. It has looked at the way the players are playing, changing around that and developing new content to fit the styles of play of the players. And I can look at some very key moments. We'll look back at Queen as a time when we went from 5v5 as the key moment for control of the Outlands to ZVZ, which wasn't just the technology allows for it. It was the way the players were playing. They were playing a ZVZ mode before they got to 5v5, and the 5v5 was determined by that ZVZ ahead of time. And the 5v5 became like an extra part of the effort, where it was just extra responsibilities for very small groups of people in the world that had to be up over and over again at every CTA. And to see the change there, and now technology over and over trying to catch up with the way that players are playing, it's very, very inspiring to watch from a player or aspiring developer position. You get to see a lot from that, and it's really impressive to see. I wish more games listen to their players as much. Now, I'm sure all you players are out there. What do you mean they're listening? Trust me, I hear you guys every day, and I see the wide variety of comments and questions, and how much these guys do is impressive for you guys. So, like, it's not going to be 100%. You can't satisfy 100% of the
And-
people 100% of
And
the time.
we actually, or no, you cannot go up.
Yeah. I mean, we watch a lot of content.
Exactly.
We read a lot. We're like, I mean, Micha and I for sure, and a lot of our other developers as well. We're like constantly on Reddit, Discord, forum, wherever, reading comments, and it's completely fine and natural that we have players that are dedicated and that post stuff and that say we're wrong. In many cases, they're probably right. I do the same for other games that I play. This is what good players should be doing, and we listen and we hear it. We won't change everything. We can't change everything, but everything gets heard and read, and we'll get to it when we have time for it.
A quick shout out to Robin Hood RS with all of his feedback that he's bringing you guys. He's doing a great job out there. He was telling me how
He
many
is.
discords he's in. Well over 100 guild discords, like 120 something discords, just talking to you guys directly. So,
Yeah.
like players, you are being listened to, and it's everybody is making an effort
Yeah.
to get the information that you guys have to the right people. The community team, the AOTV team, everybody wants you guys to be heard, and these guys are listening. And you might not see
Actually,
them all the time.
one
Good.
thing to say about this, like Robin Hooders has a direct connection, like many people from AOTV, to our company chat, and they have a chat window where he can write in bug reports and community feedback. And a lot of when we need to do a hotfix, often the first source is from AOTV. So thank you all for that. Also for Robin Hooders, who often is specifically putting up these things, or whenever something is annoying or smaller details, there's a chat that is constantly filled. We don't have the time to always react to it, but a lot of people in the company can see it. And if it's something critical, that helps us really to react quickly. So if you forward things also to Robin Hooders or to AOTB in general, there's a high chance that we see that.
And we've seen times where it is something important, and there is one of us talking to a developer in 15 minutes. There it is. I've never seen a development studio that interacts with its audience in as quick a fashion as you guys do. And now, I know our audience might not feel that way because they don't see it actually happen. Because it's generally one game of telephone, right?
Yeah.
At least. And trust me, it's happening as fast as it possibly can. And I'm very impressed with how it's sped up over the years, and how like the relationship between the studio and the players and how with feedback has changed over the years. I mean, it's always been pretty good. The roundtable was always a blast, but to see how like it's changed over the years, even as the audience numbers have quadrupled, like we went from like 40,000, active users in a month to 400,000. That's, a magnitude of 10. And yet it's so much harder to listen to that many people, but you guys are still doing it, and it's still an ongoing process of evolving the development to the feedback, and that's very, very cool. So much of this next update, like for faction warfare, is stuff that is really a back and forth with the audience and stuff with faction warfare. There's a lot of little changes in there. It's really cool to see. I know that almost all balance goes through a entire team of players who test these things and are always active with that. And that's very cool to see. It's evolved over time. You guys have done a fantastic job with that. Retro, you've been involved with that for as long as I've known you. You've been hanging out with the players in the NDA, sometimes way, way late, and
Yes.
way longer than you should.
True.
That guy doesn't
But-
sleep.
No, but that was always very helpful. And from the early days in the even back this summer alpha, we already did something similar where I had contact to where we tried to get contact to some of the guild members that played back then, and I had like them back then the first meetings were in TeamSpeak still, I remember, I think. And then we tried to get a test version, and I always was really interested to get their perspective in, because for us when we work on the game we think probably guilds do this and that, and then if you talk to them you see, okay, a lot of our assumptions are right, but sometimes they're completely wrong. They
Mhm.
actually do something completely different that we didn't have on our radar. And it's really good to have like this stream of information coming from them directly. There was always a risk, and that's always been a thing that, of course, they tried sometimes to influence us to things that benefit them. So in the past, what I did back in the alpha and beta versions was to try to get people from different and rivaling guilds and alliances in. But the problem was that was really challenging because these alliances change all the time. At some point, I had a good mix, and then after a while,
They're all on the same side.
they all became the same circle. Now, what I tried to have a very good mix, but now that's unfortunately not the case anymore.
Well, I'll tell you this, as somebody who, I did a lot early on with the different guilds and stuff. I really tried to like navigate the story, like push the story to conflict. And so much of this was really trying to get these guys to fight. And like, when you're hanging out with like King Mojo and Derek and Syndic, and they're all hanging out together, when they're not in game, and then in game they're all fighting, you don't know what the real deal is, right? Like, what's
Yeah.
going on here? And then you find out when they're hanging out a game, they're literally just shit talking each other and being miserable. But like, that's what you want, right? You want some kind of like anger in a PvP game, not necessarily mean to each other, but like, I always look at it as Albion relies on a little bit of scarcity, right? You always have just a little bit, not enough for everybody to have, and you try to get people to fight over that. Whether it's the only one person can be number one, or only one person can have this zone, right? And that's how you try to get people to fight. Now, I will say, as the game has gotten a little bit older, maybe there's a little less scarcity than there should be with high level energy. I'll talk to you about that in the spring. But like, I think there's so much around the actual activities of the players that you guys adapt to that I think is unseen by players. And it's not just the roadmap, it's not just feedback. There's a lot of private meetings where you guys are looking at huge data dumps of what players actually do, and it's often very different than what they say they do.
It's very different. It's very
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
It's actually, I mean, we will get feedback about, oh, this thing or that thing is not good in the game, and then we'll look at it and we'll be like, nope, the data tells us something completely different. Yeah, perception is
it's also tricky. Yeah, it's tricky because the data can show you a thing, but sometimes maybe they do something, but they find it annoying, and then it's kind of hard to tell by data alone. So there's a good reason to also listen to the players, but sometimes it's over exaggerated. So it's really hard to then say, oh, everyone is doing this or that, and then you look at data. Oh yeah, there's a few people, and they are very prominent or very successful with that, but it's not as big a thing as I say. It's always very tricky. So we have to always make a good judgment call where we say like, okay, probably that's right, and data can back this up or not.
Well, it's a combination.
I have one question for you, Chosen. You teased
yeah.
something with the energy. What do you mean? You say that's not. Is it the energy vortexes you think is
I honestly,
too
so I think that there's too much resources to allow for people to live in the Outlands, so they don't have to fight with each other. They can cooperate in too easy of a manner, and they can then say everybody can come into this zone, and we can continue to rent it out to as many people as we want. Not necessarily in the highest tier zones, but when you get to those mid tier zones, there's so much rental out there because there's so much resources. And if there were fewer resources, I'm not talking about like wood and ore and stuff like that. I'm talking about the resources to allow people to live there. When you make it very easy for not just one person to live there, but like 7 different people to live there, you invite the idea of somebody coming in there and saying, we can control this and we can let you all be here if you give us something. As soon as you say that it's too hard for one group to control everything because either through time or energy or vortexes, they are limited, that it has to go to a very limited number of groups, then those limited number of groups will have their own motivations for doing it that go beyond profit. And as long as you can take profit out of the main motivator, you lower the ability for cooperation. And cooperation is the number one thing I see that stymies conflict.
Okay, yeah, I got.
But
got
it's a much longer conversation that I don't necessarily want to hear.
Yeah, and we have on our radar to review these things again and see, because there are some problems with people working together. It's always really tricky to fix. But scarcity is usually our best card here that has the highest chance of success. I take that with me as in general, we should have more competition going on. Oh, sorry, cat incoming.
That's okay. I had one too. I had a big fuzz walk by. I think that's a very common thing cats like to do. They like to be
they don't like you watching a screen all the time.
I have one that just stares at one particular pixel on my monitor and just will sit there for an hour just staring at the pixel. The black screen stares at the pixel. Don't get it. But back to Albion, we were just talking about, like, motivations of players and how you guys adapt to them. Are there anything that you go throughout history that you want to say is, I remember a moment where I watched something players did that I didn't expect that I felt had to be changed? I think that's a good question for both of you guys, because I think there's probably a lot of stories in this.
I mean, there's a ton of things that got into the game in a way that we didn't want it to be in the game, and then players found out immediately, and we had to hotfix. More situations than I want to recall, to be honest.
True.
I think one in particular that I remember very vividly was when we introduced one of the crystal weapons a patch too early or something accidentally, and it was completely busted, and everyone just started going around killing people in 1 or 2 hits, and we had to react pretty much immediately. That was something that comes to mind. Oof, that was rough.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
have been a
it's-
lot. Actually, I can't remember which is the worst or something. It kind of blurs together after all these years, but way too often.
Mhm.
Especially like these hot fixes and stuff. That's very stressful for us and for many people in the team, also the coders that have to deploy the hot fix then.
You guys have
But-
gotten very good at it. I'll say that. Like, there's very quick turnarounds on a lot of these fixes when it's not Christmas. I think everybody needs to take a breather when Christmas comes along and realize that the holidays aren't just the holidays. It's also the end of the year. You know, I try to reiterate and remind people that the people who work the hardest and don't take vacations throughout the entire year have to take a vacation at the end of the year because they have to. Like, you have to use up your vacation days in the EU. It is the law. So the end of the year in development studios is always just slower. So I just want the audience to relax on Soldier Armor. It's getting fixed, and it very aware that it caused issues, and the feedback from you players is what's causing the change. So while things get rough for a little while, and maybe around the holidays a little bit rougher, it's getting better.
And while we're on the topic of community feedback, I know we're heading towards the end of the stream, but I want to say one thing that was already mentioned at the end of the dev talk is that we want to do a devs react to comments video really soon. There's been a couple of things mentioned here in chat that we haven't gotten to answer, that we haven't gotten to talk about, simply due to lack of time. Please continue adding your thoughts either here with AOTV or go to our forums, go to Reddit, etc. We're going to pick up on the most requested topics or the most upvoted topics, and we're going to answer those in a dev talk that we will be recording hopefully really soon. So that will be coming out in the coming weeks.
I'm looking forward to it. That sounds awesome. Yeah, because there's a lot of questions here. All right, there's one question that's come up like 700 times, okay? And I didn't really want to address it because I was just hoping somebody would answer it in chat. But server transfers. Do we have an update on server transfers? When can players move their characters? What will they be allowed to transfer? The everyday question.
So, it's a really tricky one. It's not an easy thing for us to solve because the expectations are very different. There are players who want everything transfers. There's other players who say it's fine if I get my Destiny board progress and maybe a little bit. The reality is that this is strictly it's not an unsubstantial risk to the game. If we move players from one market or one economy to another, that has a lasting impact on both of those economies moving. This is something that we are weighing very carefully. We're discussing it internally. We know that players want this. I myself have a character that is way more advanced than my Europe character on America still. So it's not like we don't care. It's just that this is not without risk. And when we do it, we want to do it justice. So that's the diplomatic politician answer that I can give here.
A good answer. I do see in chat that I was just told to wait on this one, and you guys would answer it later.
That was specifically something that I wanted. That was specifically something I wanted to pick up in the devs react to comments video. I might still and give a little bit more information there, but now we got that out of the way.
Yeah, sorry about that. I see that you literally said that as I was asking you the question. That was perfect timing. I love doing this. We're gonna have more of these live conversations, and hopefully, I'll ask you more inappropriate questions that you're like, no. Oh, fine, we'll do that one then. Yeah. But this was a lot of fun, guys. I really enjoyed having you guys on. I know we're out of time. You guys stuck around for an extra half hour. I really enjoyed just chatting with you guys about the update, not necessarily answering every question that the audience have. I think it's a great idea to do an additional dev talk where we do focus on the questions from chat. But I think just letting the audience know who you guys are and talking about motivations and like the deeper sides of development and what goes on behind the scenes is really important. I think not everybody really understands the amount of effort that goes into developing such a massive game, because it is at this point. It is massive. It is a 10-year old game that is well into development with the next 5 years of plans. Consoles, around the corner. I mean, I guess we can ask last question. I saw PS5 when?
Well, no confirmed date. No confirmed date. We did mention in the dev talk that we are looking into possible future extensions. Obviously, we want PS5 to come as well. But as with all other things, it's a matter of when do we have the resources to do it? How much work does actually have to go into it? There was a lot of research that we did before we went on to do Xbox. We'll do the same before PS5. Can't promise if or when we're coming, but I can tell you that we are excited about the idea of it.
I will say I'm very excited for the idea. Just knowing that it's coming to Xbox, I know development on the two systems is wildly different. Like Xbox is very much like a stripped down PC. You're using a different operating system. You get access to the resources a little bit different, but it's not the same as the PlayStation, which the way that things interact there is completely different. And you really have to almost redesign your game in a lot of ways. Might be worth it though, as it is the market penetration on PlayStation compared to Xbox is huge. And there's a lot of people in the Xbox ecosystem that have access to PCs, and the PlayStation is much more considered a console players market, much like the Switch, a consoles players market. And those would be really interesting to see how those types of players enjoy this style of game, because there's really nothing out there like Albion on any of the consoles. There are MMOs, but there's nothing quite like Albion out there. And I would love to see it. I'm very much looking forward to it. 2 years, 3 years down the line, I don't care what it takes. I'll be in Berlin for that one as well. So it'll be fun. I'll wear the appropriate T-shirt. I promise.
Yeah.
All right. So as we get out of here, guys, is there anything else you want to touch on? Because you guys have touched on so much. And again, I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you being here with us today and just hanging out and chatting. But is there anything in particular you guys want to get off your chest, let the audience know, warn us about, prepare us for?
No, there's one thing is that I would like to thank our players and the streamers alike, because some of you have been sticking for us with many, many years, and that's I'm very grateful as a developer to work on a game with such an active player base and such dedicated players. And I know some of you have been here for a very long time, like from the very early days, and I'm very thankful for that. And it's a great pleasure to work on this game. And I hope we can deliver more updates that you guys enjoy.
Yeah, and following up on that, I mean, we mentioned it before. We have big plans for the game. I know the games industry at large is not doing so well. We are pretty proud to say that we're doing fine and that we're continuing hiring. We're going to continue to build up the team. We want to continue making Albion bigger and better and cooler. And so thanks to all you players who keep playing, and you give us a lot of motivation, as Micha says.
Well, thank you guys for being here today, and I look forward to doing the next one. So until I see you guys in chat, we'll see you tomorrow. Actually, wait, we're back on Saturday with Invasion Day,
Okay.
not tomorrow. Invasion Day on
Micha
Saturday.
and I, though.
Yeah, not you guys.
We
not you guys.
We not.
Yeah, you guys are going to be at home, relaxing, get a few days off before the next season starts. Thank you again for being on. So much fun to have you guys on, and I really look forward to doing another one. And audience, we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Rosen. Thanks, everyone.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.